with a legend of wrestling, Roddy Piper, Hall of Famer. I have a site. The name of my site is nokayfabing.com. I want to explain a little bit about the word nokayfabing, because a lot of times I do interviews and the wrestlers they speak this language, and a lot of times I'm sitting with people that don't really know wrestling and they don't understand, and I will have to stop it and explain to them this lingo that y'all have. So, like I said, my site is based on teaching a little bit of, you know, the inside of this business. So I know you've been in wrestling since you was 15. I want to speak a little about kayfabe, meaning its roots, how it was started, the meaning. If you can elaborate a little bit.
Sure. Professional wrestling in the United States started after the Civil War. Words like kayfabe is probably proper pronunciation, or giabrone, or hey Roo, are all Carney words. I've heard them speak today's Carney, and it's not the same Carney as we spoke back in the day. However, the word kayfabe is not so much a word; it's a warning. If somebody was to come into a room and I heard that word, I would just know that I wasn't safe. I wouldn't necessarily know why. That's up to me to figure out, but it's like somebody throwing down a red flag. You know, something's not right, somebody's here that's not supposed to be, or somebody's caused. It could be a number of things that you're expected to be able to pick up because you're in the building, you got the atmosphere.
I know that it has different ways that it can be used. Absolutely. This is why I want you to elaborate a little bit on the different ways that it's used.
So the different ways that kayfabe is used, one is it's used to protect ourselves. Two, it's used to do business privately when you're not private, and it comes in the same category as hey Roo. Hey Roo, you would hear kayfabe and hey Roo. Kayfabe means there's trouble in the carnival. Hey Roo means that we've got somebody and we're getting them out of there. So what happens, if you ever hear hey Roo, what happens is the people of the carnivals converge on somebody. They're not what you got to worry about. It's the midget in the old days. And the midget would come in, slice you, and be gone. And everybody else, and you'd be down bleeding, and nobody would know why. But that would only be to people that tried to steal from the circus, or you know that big can that comes down and you get a toy and they're jamming the machines. Those are the kinds of things. Or a troublemaker back in the day with a gun and knife. Those words came together. So you know, I don't think those words actually exist anymore in my business. They do in me, but I don't think that they exist anymore in the business of wrestling entertainment.
All right, it's funny you mentioned about the Carney, because I was talking about this earlier. I heard a wrestler call the lingo Carney. I'm curious to know, you know, how the words would come about from Carney is a carnival, right?
Yeah.
It comes from carnival.
Carnival.
So how it started? How it started through, you know,
well, like giabrone, the word the guys today would call them jabronis or jobbers. The real word is giabrone. Giabrone is an Italian word, and they called the guys that were like digging ditches and that manual labor, they called them giabrones. Well, wrestling picked that up as a jabroni, or a guy that is not high on the card and that loses a lot. And jabroni went from jabroni to jobber, because he's doing the job or a job of helping. So that's the
Can you explain jobber? That's another word that people probably don't know the meaning of it. Can you explain the meaning of it?
Well, a jobber is a guy that in professional wrestling that comes and he's not the top of the line wrestler and he gets beat for a living. Now, there's a huge difference between being a jobber and a carpenter. A carpenter carries a lot of respect and is paid better. A carpenter is a very qualified guy that if you bring somebody in that you want to feature that's not that good, he can dance around the broomstick if he has to. That's a carpenter. Sometimes they hold the same position on a card as a jobber, but they're two completely different things. A jobber, I'd just walk through him. A carpenter, I would have a match with.
You got problems with.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
You bet.
I know Vince came out back in the 80s and exposed the business. So why do you think in 1997 the wrestling industry was still acting as if certain things would expose the business too much? At the time, at the time, people were still, you know, acting like if it was being hitting so much when he had already opened it up.
You know, Vince will use the word of exposing the business, but he didn't. Vince exposed the business as far as he knew. Vince is a promoter. The guys, the top guys that did it for a living, there's some things that aren't exposed because they're real. There's nothing to expose that. You've got to be careful with your business when you want to use the word exposed. Then Vince defined that. Does that mean that we're a bunch of stumble bums that can't fight? And you know, what exactly are you exposing? When you see me hit someone, however hard I hit them at that time, that's how hard I hit them.
All right, if you asking me this question, when I remember watching the 2020 video and he clearly said wrestling's fake. I remember this.
Yeah, I mean, he's a promoter. So let's define like fake. So did he get into what's fake? Is it predetermined?
I'm not saying it's fake.
No, I'm
saying what he said.
Yeah.
And Hogan said it too.
And who?
Hogan.
Yeah, neither one of them.
Their words were, it's all fake. Those were the exact words, it's all fake.
So I would have this to say then. To Hogan, that's the only way you got over, is if it's all fake. And McMahon, if you think it's all fake, then, well, you don't do it for a living. I wonder what they said when Mick Foley fell from the cage onto the floor and his teeth went through. Was that fake too? And I'm not telling you. Of course it's all fake, right? I mean, and when Owen Hart died, he's not really dead. That's just fake, you know, when they put the 60-pound test line on him and scraped him off the mat in front of his family. That's just fake.
It's funny we bring this up now because the next question is, I want to speak a little about why do old school wrestlers seem to take more offense to their profession being called fake?
Because it isn't fake. From the old school. Wahoo McDaniels, I'd hit him as hard as I could. I might pick my spots, chest, meaty parts. But there's nothing, they've misused the word fake. What they're trying to say is the outcome is predetermined. How you get there is where the magic is, and there's nothing fake about it. If you take Ric Flair and myself and you put us together as a tag team, we suck. Because I'm a general and he's a general. I'm saying come this way, he's saying come that way. He's saying, put us against each other, and there's so much charisma there. When he tries to pull me one way and I try to pull him the other, that becomes the magic. So it's simply this: some newspaper columnist, sports editor, some pimple on somebody's ass when Gorgeous George era was with Luthez was doing business. Like they do business in boxing, like they do business in college basketball, like they do business in baseball. Anytime a guy, so some guy that didn't want to know about it just says it's fake. Well, I could take that fella and we'll predetermine the outcome, but I guarantee you tomorrow he won't get out of bed. Why do we take such offense to it? Because it's a really ugly word that doesn't describe anything. I'm trying to think of a description of something that's fake in the true definition. Can you give me one? What would be something
Santa
other than
Claus.
wrestling? Something that you would consider fake.
Tooth fairy.
The tooth fairy. Santa Claus. The Easter Bunny. We're not even close, are we? We're not even close. And why? Because the amount of this hip was replaced in '94, 7 screws in the neck, etc., etc. There's nothing fake about that. 45 guys dead under the age of 40. So that's why we take so much offense to it.
Why do you think old school wrestlers took it a lot more serious than today in all aspects, meaning the profession entirely?
Old school takes it more serious today because it was much rougher back then. There was a lot better chance of, every time you got in the ring, there was a chance that someone was going to pop. Everybody back then knew how to take care of themselves, knew how to handle themselves. Everybody back then, to be a main eventer, you had to learn to package yourself by yourself, so when you came to a territory, all they did was put you against somebody and you had all the components to make that building sold out in 3 weeks, given that amount of TV. To make yourself a package like that is an unbelievable amount of work 24/7. And so, back in the day, I'll try to bring it as current as I can for you, which would be 84-5 at WrestleMania. You know, Schultz is slapping Stossel. Schultz is trying to get Mr. T because I'm going to wrestle him. He thinks I've stole his angle. And so Schultz bears down in LA to get Mr. T before I'm going to fight him. The next thing you know, these old LA cops that we thought were nothing kicked into the action and hog-tied him and brought him out. The next day I had a fight in a hotel room with Jimmy Snuka because we were on our own and we're feeding our family. And when we come to work, back then their money wasn't that great, that it mattered. Every move you made mattered. So the amount of positioning, it was much, much more lethal and serious back then. Plus, there was no law. And I'll give you the easiest to sum this up for you. Old school. I'll make it factual. Puerto Rico, baseball diamond, Jose Gonzalez, he wears a mask. Bruiser Brody doesn't want to lay his shoulders down for him, which I guess would be the fake part. The masked invader, who's Jose Gonzalez with the mask on, comes over, stabs him with a machete, takes it out, and leaves him there to bleed to death. Now, I'll tell you something I don't think I've ever told before. What everybody doesn't know, and then masked invader, Jose Gonzalez, goes to court for murder. And CNN's covering it, and he wears his wrestling mask to court. And he gets found innocent. Now, here's what nobody knew till now. There was another person in that room.
20 hours.
He was an American kid. He was in the shower. And Bruiser was in the shower, getting his hair wet. Bruiser came out and shut off the shower. The invader just assumed there was nobody in the shower. And then he ran him through. Bruiser Brody died because he bled to death. I'd say the competition was a little stiff in the old school.
Yes, sir. All right. Why do you think back in the day wrestlers didn't get pushed as hard as now? Meaning it's as if now it's almost handed to you, yet older wrestlers work so much better.
Today they will look at different commodities and they will pick somebody to go with. Back in the old school, they didn't do that. You took the position mostly by every night outperforming everybody, and once you were put in the main event, if you were lucky enough to sell it out, you'd get another shot at it. So when we wrestle today, I'm wrestling for next week, which is a lost art. So, just hit me with a question again.
Why do you think back in the day wrestlers didn't get pushed as hard as now?
Because why they didn't get pushed as hard as now is because back in the day, the wrestler had to push himself. There was no
handed to you.
Yeah.
It wasn't given to you.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, here I am. What have I got? I got this picture to work with. All right, I better figure something out. Because nobody else is going to help me. We're all in competition. One of the things that when we come across the issue of the integrity of pro wrestling from the beginning, I throw this question back at everybody. For the last 40 years, 30 years, you can count on one hand the number of guys that have been in the main event constantly for the last 30 years. Who's the main event all the time? Cena. Hogan. Cena. Hogan. Flair. Piper. Always the main event. Give me some Macho maybe-ish. Little stick. They've always been on top. Some guys like the Warriors have come and gone, but there's no longevity because to have longevity, you got to know what you're doing. That's where the biggest competition comes in from the old school. It's a serious competition. I'm going to get the most money.
So basically, you're saying back in the days, there was much better.
It was the fastest draw. And there was no baloney about it because you went out and did it and everybody, including the audience, knew you were. So there wasn't so much politics. They're screaming, you're selling it out, that's the guy.
All right, I have one more question. I hear your son Colt, he's a martial artist. Can we expect to see him in the UFC or the WWE?
Holy cow, my son Colt, he's beautiful. He's twice the man I am. He's 22. He's undefeated as an amateur. And I know Vince said to me, anytime I can help you with that boy, you let me know. I would like to see Colt follow his dreams and not be pressured into like those DiBiase's kids, Orton's kids, And I don't know what the situation is. I love them all. But I want Colt to make up his own mind. And if he wants, you know, he's really handy at MMA. He's really, you know, as far as a professional referee, hello son. This is my son Colt.
There you go, Colt. That's his son Colt, future UFC fighter.
You know, he's working out 4 hours a day. He's pounding out 300 on the bench at 170 pounds. He's taking the sledgehammer. But here's the thing is, I don't want him forced into, because it's family tradition, I don't want him to have to do MMA or WWE because he feels he has to. It's if he wants to. The best thing with Colt, and I'll finish up, is when he went to high school, you know, Judo Gene LaBelle, and he's been Team Quest with Randy Couture, Matt Lindland, and Judo Gene LaBelle's been training him all his life, and I've been training him, and when he went to high school, the first time as a freshman, there's a football coach and a wrestling coach, and they're all ready to sign Colt up, and Colt says, no, I think I'll take choir. He took choir for yes! He got to prove nothing, but then he'd go to the Rose Garden, and you know, he knocked out the 28-year-old fireman when he was 17 in the first round. So I love that about him.
Now, real quick, your daughter, I hear she's into acting.
Yes, my second oldest daughter, Ariel Teal Toons. She is a graduate of the Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, and I'm just about, when I'm finished here, I just finished a show, hard show, and I'm going to go to LA and see if I can't give her a little boost. You know, it's very competitive, obviously, and the best thing ever happened to me was my kids. I love them so much. I have 4.
Can I get a close-up of the Hall of Fame ring?
You betcha. You betcha. I'm in 4 Halls of Fame. I have 4 rings.
I'll be looking.